Good morning. Thank you, Leslie. It was really interesting hearing, the things that she said, and it's been 30 years I've been doing this. So I'm going to sort of jump around, and I want to apologize. I trust I won't offend anybody today, but anyone who knows me knows I speak from the heart and quite passionate. Just thought I'd start by, on Monday, Ramo and I attended the Art of Sale. They had some unbelievably professional speakers with technical and great backdrops and everything else. If that's what you're expecting today, you're in the wrong seminar. You probably should have attended on Monday. The slide behind me, I'm going to get to in a second, but what I wanted to talk about was sort of some of the things that have been unique. Somebody once asked me in 30 years some of the most unique items that I've ever sold. I had to think about it for a little bit, and I came up with one, and I trust me when I say that it's true. I once sold a gynecologist logoed stirrups. And I qualify that by saying it is the God's honest truth, and that's not to suggest that everything else I tell you is going to be a lie. So the other side of that was I thought about it, and the back end of that, I once sold a funeral home coffee mugs. And I thought, what other industry in the world does it see you coming in this world and see you going out? So the goal today is to have some fun. I've always believed that what we do is sell fun, so we should have some fun selling it. So I popped this slide up behind me, and it's certainly no reflection of your IQ, it's my IQ. It's called Promotional Products for Dummies, and I really want to bring this down to grassroots. There's a lot of people, very diverse backgrounds in this room. I don't know many, if any, that came out of school and said, I want to sell promotional products, and if anybody did, please let me know. And the last time I did this, 2 people raised their hands, and both of which were born into it. Their parents owned it. So we've all got here. We've probably failed at something before we've got here, but we're here. So we're going to take it through. We're hoping that we're going to wrap this in about an hour and 10. We'll have a period for question and answers. But as I said, the slide behind me was Promotional Products for Dummies, and this is where it starts. And before I say this, the thought is, and it's a bit of a disclaimer, if indeed you feel the need to sue anybody after this, don't sue me. Don't sue the association. Sue Ramo. All right? So there's 3 segments, and this really is back to basics within our industry, and I like to refer to this as the food chain. So the first one is obviously the supplier. For those of you, and I guess we've got a little bit of both in the room, the suppliers are what I call, they control the game. And for anybody who's a distributor and doesn't get it, listen and listen very carefully. They control price, they control delivery, but most of all, they control HR. And a lot of people think about that and they say, what does that mean? So if you're a multi-line or a rep, every time you walk into a principal's office, he says, you got any good salespeople? You know any good salespeople? So that is your HR department. So for those of you as distributors who think lighting up these people is a good idea, it's not going to help your HR. We depend on them. I thank them. Without them, we have nothing. So from simplistics, they provide dependability and they provide solutions. The second one is the distributor. There's 2 types of distributors. There's the one that sort of looked like Herb Tarlick, we initially started, and then there's the professional. Distributors changed. And again, I've been at this for a very long time. I have many friends that are competitors, but the reality is, and I don't know when it started, and I don't know if anybody watches the show Dragon's Den or Shark Tank. There's a guy named Kevin O'Leary, and he always talks, and his favorite thing, and it's not cockroach, it's stop the madness. I don't know when, and I think it was around 2006, 2005, that somebody decided that we should work for free. It's self-destructive. We've taken a role and we've taken an approach where we've, for whatever reason, defaulted to bringing margins down. And I can tell you, people ask, why did we do this? Our hope is that we'll get this message out there. You don't need to give it away. There's a lot of money. Creativity will provide you with an opportunity to make money. So distribution has never been more important, but the need is now not about selling product as much as it's about providing solutions, providing resources, etc. Then there's the consumer. And again, I date myself a little bit, but I think those in the room that have been around doing this for a while recall a time when POs were cut on bar napkins and deals were made. Today's end user looks something like this. They're young, they're well educated, they more often know what they want, and I think we've all probably seen a situation where they will turn around and send you as much as a link and say, I'm looking for this. It's a different world we live in. We're not flying by the seat of our pants anymore. This is what we're up against. So what we're going to talk about today is going to incorporate those three. And as I said, that to me is what I call the food chain. And the goal is to eat and not be eaten. And unfortunately, we've sort of digressed a little bit to the point where we're doing it to each other. And the goal is that we all come out of this. Ramo?
Thanks, Neil. Good morning. I would like to thank all of you for waking up extremely early this morning to be here. I understand there was a lot of parties happening last night, so thank you very much for that. My name is Ramo Niceforo. I've been part of the industry since 1995. I've been in sales for 28 years. I started selling professionally or as a career when I was 16. And have studied sales my entire life. I've read 100,000 books. I've gone to many seminars, continue to do so. I love it. My role or my position at Impact, my card reads president. My true job description is more based on sales. In fact, we've spent a lot of time, or I spent a lot of time sort of designing our team to allow me to sell as much as possible, because it's what I love to do, it's what I'm good at. I don't aspire to get away from it. I'm trying to get better at it and do more of it. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the selling process as we see it. It's not necessarily the only technology. There's a lot of technology about what the sales process looks like. This is simply sort of what we practice, if you will. Not to say that ours is right and the other ones are wrong, but it's sort of as we see it. The other part I want to mention is it is a process. So one of the things that I truly believe about the selling process is there's different styles. So my style is very aggressive and forward, if you will. Neil's style is much more, let's say, passive. The process is the same, and I think you'll sort of hear that as we go through, but the style is very different. Both are effective. In fact, there's many variations. The only thing I would like to suggest is that the process does work if it's followed. So the selling process. Prospecting, qualifying, presenting, overcoming obstacles, closing, and then follow-up. And then later on at the very end, we'll talk about the value of relationships and the importance of a CRM. So the first one is prospecting, and this one is kind of interesting with what's going on with the internet today. One of the things I think that we all sort of started fearing about 10 years ago is that websites or e-commerce was going to replace us. And here we are 10 years later, or however long it's been, and I'm happy to say that it hasn't replaced us. In fact, I would say that our role has actually become that much more important, but it also has evolved. One of the things that I've read and studied and believe to be true is that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And I think we've all heard that. That's nothing new in this room. The other thing that I believe to be very important is you have to have a value proposition. You have to have a value proposition as an organization. You have to have a value proposition as a salesperson. And that's not an easy answer. It's not something that I don't think we're going to necessarily figure out this morning. But when you can sort of start to look at the value you add to your client's life, and if you can change that or raise that to a very high level and add it to someone knowing, liking you, and trusting you, I think what that ends up equaling is a great client. The days of picking up a phone and calling people and trying to get an appointment, I think that's sort of gone. What we focus on at Impact is not necessarily trying to bring in new clients. We focus really hard on taking care of our existing clients and being great to them. And what that does is it allows us to start building relationships, prospecting with new clients as a result of those relationships that we entrench with our existing clients. Yeah, I think that's sort of it.
That's okay. So it's prospecting is really changed. I guess when I started in the industry, the idea was you'd make a number of phone calls and bang on doors. And I would strongly suggest if that's the go-to-market strategy, the first door you knock on would be Shoppers Drug Mart. Get some Band-Aids for your hand, because the reality is you're not getting anywhere. If you're out there banging on doors, likely the only people that are going to take the time to talk to you are looking for a lower price. So I never thought, and you know, at my age, I'd be talking about the internet, but the internet is a weapon. I think there's so many things that are available that I can do more research and prospecting at my desk than I possibly could by hitting the street. So I'll give you an example. And this particular account, don't bother phoning, they're a friend of mine and they're a customer, so don't bother jotting down their name. I just use this as an example. This is a company in Newmarket. They have about 1,200 employees, but they talk about why work here. If you go through the back end of a website, you'll see so many things. And traditionally, people will go to websites and they look for marketing manager, contact information, and away you go. That doesn't really tell the story. So, you know, when I look at these things, I look at why work here. They just put in a gym. They're very conscious on health. The whole focus within is the high stress. It's a collection agency, so there's a lot of stress. They were just named best managed companies. There's a series of things within that website that outside of marketing manager and or contact information. Almost every website, and I can assure you that whether you look at any of your own websites, it tells a story. Websites are promoting what you feel passionate about. People promote what you feel passionate about, and subsequently people are going to. So if I'm able to walk into this particular account and, you know, I bring him a Bic lighter, it's probably not going to fly based on the whole concept. And I know that sounds really, really simple, but the reality is that through the prospecting, and it sort of goes back and forth between prospecting and qualifying, and they do sort of come hand in hand, but the reality is the websites today have so much. There's press releases, there's the things that they're trying to promote. If you can go in, and I've always believed that, you know, and I hate to use cliches, but if you learn it, you learn it. If I understand the business before I walk in, the likelihood of them turning around and giving me an opportunity is far greater than coming in with a predetermined, you know, you want to buy a watch, you want to buy a jacket, or whatever it may be. So that being said, I talk about it. It's differentiating yourself. When you walk the show over the next couple of days, you will see people of all shapes, all sizes, all colors. There are so many people coast to coast that do it. There are those that are professional, and quite frankly, there are those that are not. But our goal, quite honestly, in order to sustain and maintain margin, is to be different. Think outside of that box. So I'll give you a couple of simple little slides. In qualifying, this guy, he has a need. So when I go to see him, I have to be prepared. So this would be a perfect example. That's not good for him. He does not need a comb. This guy also has a need, and if I'm properly prepared, I come in hand with a bat. And I started this by saying that it was going to be promotional products for dummies, and I really have dumbed it down. But it speaks to it. I don't know how many times people have come in, and I've seen it on both sides of the fence as a supplier and a distributor, and have absolutely no concept of the need before you walk in. That's doing your homework. That really speaks to being a pro. So this may seem like basic 101 stuff, and it really, truly is. But, you know, to go into the president of IBM with a big old Budweiser belt buckle and or Hell's Angels with a cross pen, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And you'd be amazed at how important that first couple of minutes when you walk in is all about it. So I'll let Ramo talk a little bit more about qualifying.
Thanks, Neil. So when we look at the selling, process, I consider qualifying to be above and beyond the most important part of the selling process. I think one of the things we do as salespeople, or one of the myths I think about salespeople, is that we spend our time talking, informing our customers. We know everything. We should be the ones talking. Everybody else should be listening. I think the truth about sales is it's about being a great listener. In order to be a great listener, you need to ask great questions. In real estate, the three rules are location, location, location. In sales, I'm going to say that it's qualify, qualify, qualify. I think that our job is asking questions. And I think of asking questions as an art. Some of the things that I've done in the past is spend time trying to figure out how to ask the same question in different ways. Using voice inflection, raising your voice, softening your voice, changes how the question is asked. The better you become at asking questions, the more information your clients volunteer. In fact, I'll go further than that. Clients will tell you information that they didn't know that they knew, if that makes any sense, just by continuously asking questions. And what happens as you're asking those questions, you start to form an understanding of the client or company's buying habits, past experiences, pain points, what's worked for them, what hasn't. As a rule of thumb, what I find is when we get to the point of presenting, you go in and the clients are looking at your presentation and they're kind of a little bit dumbfounded or cross-eyed going, what are you showing me? And I would suspect if that's happening, that's because you haven't qualified the situation or project effectively. So asking an abundance of questions, ongoing, because part of the relationship with the customer should be continuously asking questions, because what happens is you start to learn about the project, but you also learn about the organization, and that will help you introduce opportunities that they're not even asking you for, just because you understand what the organization or what the company is about, if that makes any sense. Okay, so now you've gone in, you've spent all this time qualifying, whether that's in person, which is always best, because when you're watching somebody speak, you can see what troubled them or what they liked. It's hard to get that through an email. It's still hard to get it through a phone call. I always recommend qualifying in person. So that looks like a pad and just asking questions and taking notes and trying to understand. You've done that. Now you're going back to present. And presentations happen in a variety of different ways. They can happen in person. They can happen by email. I highly recommend that presentations are always done in person. Sometimes presentations happen in groups. I suspect that today they're happening more and more. One of the things that we're finding at Add Impact is that most decisions are now being made communally. So as opposed to being made by one person like they were 10 years ago, there's a group of 3 or 5 or whatever on a committee, and they're, it's sort of a unanimous or a majority decision, if you will, if not unanimous. So again, even more important to present in person, because you may be speaking to somebody one-on-one, and they say, oh, we love this, and then they get in front of the committee, and they go, we hate this. And you don't know why, because you weren't there. You don't know what was said. Maybe your client said all the wrong things. So I highly recommend that you go out of your way to make sure you present in person. So one of the things I would tell you, too, about presenting is looking at it from the mindset of the people receiving your presentation. As salespeople, we're the most important, aren't we? It's all about me. They're all waiting for me to get there. The truth is, for them, you're an interruption in their day. They got 300 emails to get to. They got 4 other meetings. Their bosses asked them to put together 4 reports. They're getting ready for a conference next week. Oh, and that sales guy's coming in. Geez, can we reschedule him? Can he just email his proposal? Do we really need to see him? That's who we are to them. How do we change that? I believe what you should do, what we try to do, is become the high point of their day. So how do you do that? I believe you should try to appeal to as many of their senses as possible. I believe that the presentations should be short and effective. So appealing to their senses. One of the things that we do is we try to get to presentations early. If you're on time, you're late. If you get there early, they usually say, oh, you guys can go in and set up. So what we'll do is we can go in the room and we can strategically pick our chairs. One of the things that we do at the office is we try to sit on a diagonal. So what does that do? When I'm speaking, the other person on the diagonal is watching everybody's body language. And they can jump in and say, wow, this is not kind of going so good. I see that guy's frustrated or whatever, and vice versa. So that's strategic. The other thing that we do is we bring treats. They're laughing because up the street from our office there's a really famous cannoli place. So what we do is we talk to all our clients about these famous cannoli, and in an effort to woo them to come to our office, and we go buy them cannoli, and everybody's all embarrassed because they make a big mess of themselves and there's powder all over themselves or whatever. But they talk about it for months and months after the fact. We have to come back for a cannoli is the sort of the conversation. So it's a pleasant interruption to their day. It's something that they start to look forward to. We try to provide gifts for everyone. And it doesn't have, I mean, we should practice what we preach, but we try to sort of have a small gift or a thank you, if you will, that's again also suitable for the demographics or the clients that we're speaking to. So all of those things make that a little bit better in their day, something that they look forward to. The other part that I think we're guilty of in terms of salespeople is the style or the methodicalness of our presentation. So the way I'll sort of describe that is let's pretend that we're real estate agents and you're going in to show a family a house. So imagine you're doing this presentation and you say, oh yeah, I got to show you this bedroom. It's just wonderful. So you take them upstairs and you go, look at this bedroom. Isn't it beautiful? Oh, and you got to see the basement. Come on. And you run downstairs and you say, look at this basement. Isn't it? Oh, wait, there's a shed outside. I got to show you the shed. And you run outside. So imagine this presentation going on like this. It's very sort of confusing. You don't remember what you saw in what room. You're doing a lot of work to see this house. There's no methodicalness. The way it should probably flow is it should probably flow room by room in some type of an order that you've thought out. To draw that back to our industry, if you were doing a presentation on something like, let's say like a trade show, and one part of it was a uniform or what the salespeople at the trade show would be wearing, and the other part was a giveaway, you would put it in, you would do the uniform part first or the giveaway first, not show them anything else, work through each item, try to get some feedback or an understanding of where they're at with that, and we'll talk about overcoming obstacles after that. And then when that's finished, move on to the giveaways. Because in their brain, it's hard for them to go shirt, giveaway, shirt. They're just, our brains don't work that way. So if you do that, and the presentation is short, fun, methodical, and you can find more ways or other ways to elevate that experience, the amount of times that you'll be asked to present will go up, and the caliber, or for us, the decision makers in the room will start to also go up as well. Okay, so that's good.
This is probably the best part for me. For those of you who obviously heard my bio, I was very, very fortunate. I sold a large company in 2008 and retired at 44. Spent a lot of time traveling and enjoying life, and then one day I had a call from Ash City and they said, will you come and do this? And because of a non-compete, I had to go to the US to do it for 3 years. So everybody said to me, are you nuts? Why did you come back? And the answer was that, albeit I was very fortunate and received a great deal of money, I couldn't buy that feeling. There's an adrenaline when you walk into a sales call, and we've all got it, whether it's in an elevator, in a car, in a fist pump, or Yahoo, or whatever. That was missing in my life, which is exactly why I decided to come back to this. So I put this, and I will flip hats a little bit because, again, I've got a bit of a diverse background, and I should have mentioned it off the start. So was a distributor, became a supplier, became a distributor, married a multi-line. You see where I'm going? I got a really unique perspective of the industry. So, Survivor. When I was with Ash City in the US, I did a lot of training, and the thought process is that I have sat through some of the worst presentations ever. I don't want to be a part of them. I don't want to do them. And I go back, and again, I'm going to change gears a little bit. So when I was president at APG, we would get calls, and Leslie or whatever would pipe up and say, I want to get in. And we had a policy, and the policy was that I would send it out to the sales team. And if I didn't get 75% of the sales team say, I want Leslie in, Leslie didn't get in. So that was a pretty lousy call I'd have to make to Leslie, and I'm not picking on you, I'm just using it randomly. And I'd say, and she's, but I gotta get in or I'm gonna get fired. I mean, you're a big company. I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna give you one more shot at this. But I'm telling you, this is it. This is how it works, and if you don't pull this off. So she comes in, and I will tell you, it was day and night, because she was playing for her life, and she knew if she didn't wow them all over. She came in prepared. She came in with a mission. She came in and she knew about my business. She knew that I worked with banks and they happened to have blue colors, and she had everything lined up, and she just knocked it out of the park. That's the survivor part. And I talk about preparation and prospecting and qualifying and all of that, but that's a preparation. And that is walking into an appointment thinking, if I don't give it everything I've got, I'm not getting back in. Survivor, you're getting voted off the island. If you go into every presentation thinking this is it, you will definitely go in with a different approach. And sometimes I think we get a little lazy and complacent, yeah, it's my buddy and this and that. There's always somebody coming up behind you to come after you. So there's really two types of presentations. There's an individual presentation, which we'll start with here. And this slide's a little hard, and I looked high and low for something that could sort of point this out. We sell product, but I think we sell an experience. We have so many competitors that we have to break down barriers. So when I walk in to an individual, a smaller company, you see a wall, and you look around, and instead of going in prepared, and here's my pen, and here's my hat, and here's my this and that, I'm looking around his office. I'm looking around his desk. This is just an example. I see on his desk he's got leaf tickets. I start talking to him about FNUF and what a bum he is. I see he's got a kid, just got married. We break that barrier. He drives a Mercedes. He likes fine things in life. I've got all this going on. And if you think back to some of your customers' offices, you'll see, I use Ramo as an example. I walk in his office. He loves golf. He's got a hole-in-one plaque. He's got his pictures of his kids. He tells a whole story. And all of a sudden, I know how to break that barrier down. It's unbelievable some of the things you will get just by observing a desk, a wall, etc. I was in Ohio, and I was with a rep, an Ash City rep, and he said, I'm going to take you into this big account. We have got nowhere with this guy. I've tried for 5 years to break it. I said, all right, Tom, let's go. So we walked in. And the guy started telling a story, and I let him go, and I'm looking around the golf and this and that. And I said to him, wow, this is a great building. He said, yeah. I said, how long have you been in here? Oh, 2-3 years. What's the square footage? And he starts telling me, is it all office? Do you have warehouse? Oh, I have warehouse, and I have this, and I have that. He said, you want a tour? I said, absolutely. So before you know it, we're walking through the warehouse, and he's showing me this is where I run Google, and I'm seeing everything. And he doesn't know he's given me a roadmap to this place. And I'm seeing Sanmar and Trimark, but I'm not seeing Ash City boxes. I've learned so much, and he doesn't even know. So when we went out and we left the meeting, we got back in the car, and the rep said to me, he said, I have called on this guy for 5 years, and I had no idea what he ran in here. I didn't know. How did that happen? And I asked him to talk about his favorite thing. He said, what's that? I said, himself. He's so proud. This is something, and I assure you, and I play this game with Ramo, and I watch people come in, and they start talking to him, and they see the golf and the hole-in-one, and they talk about the programs and the showrooms. He is buying whatever they're selling. They have broken down a barrier. And the reality is that when you get into this environment, I think we're just too quick to pull that bag out and say, hey, this is what I got. This is what he got. This is what he wants to talk about. This is his life. His, her, I shouldn't just stereotype. It's almost like profiling, if you will. You understand a sweet spot for somebody, and people, come in my office and they see pictures of my kids and all of the above. But if you spend more time understanding the individual, you'll have a far greater success than trying to sell them product. So this is what I call an individual meeting. So the next one, how many of you walked into this environment? This is cold. You walk in here and there's 8-10 people at a desk, especially the multi-lines, and you walk in and nobody's smiling and everybody's head's down, and it's like, uh-oh, this isn't the way I figured this one to go. So I generally, when I do this, I don't put up text as far as the slide presentation, but if there's one slide in my part of this that I think is really, really, really important, it's the next one. So I really want to start going through this one point at a time. I always start at the front door, and now we're into a bigger company. the receptionist. The receptionist can be so important, and for those of you who don't think about he or she, a lot of big companies, you can't deliver a box to the front door. She allows you to do it. I'm calling, so-and-so so many times, he's not returning my call. I call her, and I make sure, is he not in? Yeah, he's in. He just doesn't like you. But this is the kind of thing that every time I go in, you make that receptionist your friend, it will help you. I guarantee every receptionist at any of our clients, we drop by at Christmas, we make sure they get something. This is a big one. But going back to this boardroom we walked into, I tell a quick story. I had a multi-line, a good friend of ours, came in our company, and he walked around, and we had, I guess, 13, 14 people. And after he left, he said to me, what does that dark-haired girl in the end do? And I said, well, why didn't you ask her? And I explained it to him. So one of the first things I do when I walk into this type of a meeting where there's a whole big table, I ask everybody not only to introduce themselves, but give me a reason, like, what do you do? Because one of the things is, this is finance, so I'm going to target them with billing issues. This is warehousing. Everybody's got a reason for being in that meeting. So I never try to focus on one end. It also engages people once they've had a chance, and they don't often get a chance to speak. So I always have, and I go around the room, it takes 5 minutes, and then I draw a little map, and I say, this is names, and I write down names, so I've got everybody's name so I can address them on a personal level. I never focus on one individual. Every single person in that room has a reason for being there. So more often than not, we focus on what we think may be the decision maker, and quite often we miss it altogether. The person making the decision is the one to his right or left. I always like to start by turning a meeting around. We always go in with an agenda, and it's like, this is what I'm going to do. So what I try to do when I go into these meetings, and I say, if you were to describe your perfect meeting and the best takeaway from today, what would it look like? I said, well, we've had troubles with this or that, and what it does is it allows me to tailor my presentation, because it's not about what I am, it's about what they need. So if they are able to tell you, and most will tell you, you know what, we're really looking for this or that, it certainly helps it. And most importantly in all of this, Ramo talked about listening. Listen for pain points. When you're in that, there's a reason. People will share stuff with you, and if you can focus on those pain points, don't get caught up in what you think you should be talking about. Think about the needs within the room. And most importantly, I guess, is I never speak about the cost of things. I speak about the value and what we're bringing to the game. So if you take those, that's okay, Neem. If you take those, I think you'll have some great success walking into that big boardroom that appears cold, and you can break it down and warm it up very quickly. Overcoming obstacles. Obstacles are inevitable. I don't care if you're a supplier or a distributor, and we can call them obstacles, you can call them challenges, you can call them screw-ups if you may. The reality is we're all going to have a problem at some stage of the game. How you handle that problem is going to determine the longevity of your relationship. The first thing I would suggest is that when you have a problem, don't sit on it. The longer it festers, the worse it gets. It's inevitable. If you can tackle it right out of the chute and knock it down early, you're really, really going to be better off. The second thing is that a lot of people think of obstacles or objections as a problem. Quite frankly, if somebody doesn't drop the ball or the customer doesn't have a problem, you're likely not going to get an opportunity. So I think of these as something that just let them listen. One of the funniest things that I've seen, and I guess having worked as a supplier as well, that customer that wants to go and rant and rave and carry on, the best answer ever to diffusing that situation, say thank you to them. They don't know what to do. They're just, what? And the reality is they look at you and they sort of laugh, and the thought process is that if you didn't care or want to do business with me going forward, you likely wouldn't be tuning me up. So thank you. That will stop about 90% of people on a rant. And also encourage customers to speak openly. The better the relationship, and this whole thing is a big, the circle of the sales process, I guess. When you've got that dialogue about pains and what we did, we saw something the other day, and there was 3 questions, and it said, what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? And what should I continue doing? If you think of it that way, and every time you go out, it's a good takeaway, because there are it's inevitable you're doing things that aren't necessarily in the best interest. There are also things that you could do more of. There's nothing wrong with asking your customer that. Start stop, continue. So if you do those things, you'll overcome those obstacles and objections. Raymond?
Thanks, Neil. So we were talking about presenting just before we talked about overcoming obstacles. I believe if you do qualifying effectively and your presentation is also effective, hopefully you're not overcoming obstacles. Hopefully they're just going to give you an order. However, that being said, sometimes things change, or things come up, or we missed something when we were doing our qualifying, and now you have an obstacle to overcome. So this is, I thought this was an interesting slide. Our friend the lion here is having a challenge eating the giraffe, so he's trying to come up with some ways of doing that. Overcoming obstacles is really about qualifying. One of the things I think that we do as salespeople is we think of the obstacle as being the price. That seems to be our natural default. Oh, they're not buying, my price must be too high. And the reality is, I don't know what the percentage is, but more often than not, then that's really not what the obstacle is. Going back to qualifying, overcoming obstacles can only happen through asking questions. So the example that I use at our office is I think of us being doctors. And if you go to the doctor and you said to the doctor, I'm not feeling well, and the doctor said, oh, no problem, go get this and take this, you would kind of go, well, what do you mean? You haven't even asked me what's wrong with me. And that's, I think, sort of what we do. Overcoming obstacles is a type of qualifying your will. It's the art of asking questions. Can I understand why you're not proceeding with the order? What are you thinking? What can we do different? What is the challenge? Finding ways to ask questions and trying to get information from your client. Because, for example, it may be a simple thing like you're in the wrong, they can't buy anything because their budget's over March 31st and they've spent their budget for the year. And it might be as simple as, I need to be billed April 1st. And some clients might not think to ask you. And you're thinking, of course I can bill you April 1st, just ask. And all of a sudden you don't have this deal, and it's because of something simple like that. So you have to have the confidence to say, why aren't you moving forward with the order? Is there something we can do different? And if you're effective at asking those questions, the chances are you'll get the truth. The truth is sometimes you're not going to get the truth. So the better you become at asking those questions, the better chance you have of closing the sale, if you will. And then one of the other things that we're also guilty of in closing the sale is we're very, very good at doing the presentations, but forget to ask for the order. And I can't tell you how often that happens. So here's a true number for you. 70% of sales happen after the 5th ask. That's a true number. 70% of sales happen after the 5th ask. Now, let's be clear about this. I'm not suggesting you call your client Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and say, can I have the order? Can I have the order? Can I have? That's probably a good way not to get the order. Asking for the close can be asked in so many different ways. Would you like to order the product now and I'll store it for you until the golf tournament? Were you thinking of going with the red or the black? Were you thinking of going with the 500 quantity because of the savings? Those are all closing questions. And there's a variety of different ways you can ask for the order. You can just ask, would you like to proceed? Now, I also like to ask yes questions. I mean, this is very old school stuff. Did you want to go with the 250 or the 500? Did you want to go with the black or the orange? Because those are all yes questions. I don't really like to ask the question, did you want to proceed with the order? Because one of the options with that question is no. The other thing I want to mention too is before I turn it over back to Neil, part of one of the things we should be doing when we're closing and throughout the process, and I'll talk more about this after Neil comes up, is sort of talking about the next steps, because we're so focused on getting this one order, and then we get this one order, and now what?
You know what? We talk about the differences between Ramo and I, and we often make jokes about it. And his attitude is, I'm going to kick the door in and get the order. My attitude is, I'm going to be invited in and take it. Both are very effective, and I think the success speaks for itself. And I'm not going to suggest that it's right or wrong. But one of the things in closing that and I saw so much of it when in the U.S., and I guess it's a bit of a different culture. Is very few people take the time to say thank you, how important your business is to me. And that doesn't matter if you're a distributor or a supplier. It was quite amazing, and I've watched it, and people that come into our office and present and everything else, and not once, I shouldn't say not once, rarely does anybody appreciate or say thank you for the time of your team today, the value and the cost of having all those people with us this morning. So I would really suggest in the close, and again, it's sort of a different approach, but thank them. Your business is very important. You've done X number of dollars with me. You're one of my top accounts. Make them feel important when you do that. The other thing is that I talked about the asking the question about your perfect meeting. I always like to circle back at the end of it and say, you know what, I asked you earlier about the perfect meeting. What did it look like? I just want to make sure I've covered it all, because to Ramo's point, you're not necessarily 5 times you get a chance at this. This is your opportunity to go back and to revisit and to have listened. I think of it a bit like a criminal trial. You hear a lot of things and they do a close, and when they come to close, they think about all the things that transpired over the course of a trial. Each sales call or presentation should be done that way, because you're going to learn things and you're going to use it against, not against, but in an attempt to clarify the need. And when you do it that way, we've had some tremendous, and personally I've had some great success in closing. But a bit of a soft sell, if you will, just coming in and making everybody feel warm, and then at the end of the day making sure that you've met their needs and not made it product focused as opposed to solution based. Ramo?
Thanks. So when we were here, as Neil mentioned, on Monday doing the Art of Sales, and one of the things I found interesting, an interesting statistic, how many of us in this room, by a show of hands, are looking for new customers? Who's looking for new customers? All right, so statistic, depending on the industry, depending on the company, 20 to 70% of new customers are lost within the first 100 days. Say that again. 20 to 70% of customers, new customers, are lost within the first 100 days. That's an interesting number. Think about how much energy we put into getting those new customers. How many weeks, months, or years in some cases. How much cost, phone calls, emails, meetings, to get that customer, and think about how quickly some of those customers are leaving us. I believe that that's happening because we're not worried or thinking about the follow-up or the relationship. One of the things that happens at our office is somebody will, coming racing down the corridor and saying, I got the order, I got the PO, look, 6 months of work, I got the order. My question is, okay, good, now what? And I get this, what do you mean? Mission accomplished. I said, no, that's the first part. I mean, we're trying to build a 20-year or a 30-year relationship. What's next? And I hate to say this, but a lot of the times is, I don't know. So one of the things throughout the whole process and after the sale, we should be, the way I would describe it is, I think of it as speaking with your mother, sister, best friend. What are we doing for your birthday? Where are we spending Christmas? Are we going away together? I know we're doing this Thursday, but are you guys hosting Sunday? So you're always talking about what's upcoming, but also future points. Yeah, it's not the focus right now because, Easter's a ways away. Like right now we're going to worry about your birthday because that's this weekend. But that's in the back of my mind, and I'm starting to think about that. See, what happens is when we start to behave that way, our value proposition goes up. So now what happens is our clients think of us as, oh, no, well, Ramo's looking after it. He knows that we got that thing coming up. It's not even on my to-do list because I know he's looking after it. So that part, the follow-up, if you will, helps create that retention, if you will, as opposed to the stuff got there on Monday, whew, my job's done. Because if you treat your customers that way, I have news. That's how you're going to get treated. We bought some stuff from you, we paid you, we don't owe you anything. So the value of the relationship is something that we talk a lot about in this industry. And I hear it in our walls all the time. I have a great relationship with this customer. So what we tried to do is we try to come up with ways to measure it. So one of the things we do is talk about giving it a number, 1 to 10, if you will. So 10, you spend Christmas with them. 1 is they might remember your name, maybe, if they see you. So if you look at your clients and you try to figure out where you are with them, and you can take those numbers and start to elevate them, I believe what happens is I believe your business will also, same thing will sort of start to happen. We take sort of for granted that that's my customer. Today, 2015, you don't have a customer. You have an opportunity. Your opportunity is to make your client's life better, to add value to your client's life. Not last year because you did that 2-day delivery. That was last year. Today. Every day. So one of the things that we invest on is a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. That helps us capture some of this information. See, I believe what happens as individuals, we have what I call heroes in our life. So what happens is you might have a lawyer, you might have an accountant, you might have a dentist, you might have a doctor, you might have a tailor or a grocer, whatever. And the ones that are great, they're your heroes. You know, when I go to that restaurant, they always got a great table for me. Somehow they make that happen. They know what I like to eat. They always surprise me with something interesting. That happens, the way that was done by that restaurant looks effortlessly. But I can tell you that there's a lot of time behind the scenes having those conversations and working on that, recruiting people that are like-minded to give you that type of experience. The people in that top 10 that don't behave like a hero, you may have not replaced yet. Maybe your dentist. Geez, it takes 5 months to get an appointment. He's always running late. His breath smells, whatever. The truth is, you may not be going out of your way to replace that dentist, but the first opportunity that presents itself, you're gone. You may be at a party, you meet a dentist for the first time, seems like a good guy, his office might be close by. You know what, I'm going to give you a call, I'm going to give you a try. And that dentist is gone. Because you're not the hero. So are you behaving like a hero? Are you providing value to your customer's life? So I mentioned we use a CRM. One of the things, does anybody not know what a CRM is? Just be honest, you don't know? Everybody good? Okay. There's a couple of good ones out there. I think about the 2 best ones. There's others. The ones that I'm familiar with, there's Salesforce.com, and then there's Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Those are probably the 2 most robust systems. Again, there's a lot of them in the space. Unfortunately for our industry, our clients are not necessarily $2 million type of a year accounts. We have many 10,000 or 25,000 or 50,000 or whatever year accounts, and sometimes those are made up of course, multiple orders that happen more often than not systematically throughout the course of the year. How many of you can remember all of your clients' events last year? Or what worked for your clients or what didn't work for your clients? How many of you know what events are coming up for all your clients in 2015? By date. How many of you know what your clients purchased last year? That's the truth. I mean, the reality is, as you know, like the rest of us, we sit down, we look at 150 emails, this is on special, there's a meeting coming up, that got moved, got to do a report for that, got to work on a proposal for this. There's all these things going on. Now, our client, I can tell you, does not care. They care about me. How good are your ideas going to be for this year's golf tournament? They were good last year, but what are you doing this year? How are you going to make it better this year? Oh, by the way, and cheaper. How are you going to give me more? So what a CRM allows you to do, what we do, and I'll talk real life. I mean, one of the things I want to express is we don't do this for a living. We probably wouldn't make very much money if we did this for a living. We're you. Tomorrow morning, we're calling clients. Tomorrow morning, we're trying to get orders. We're trying to forge new relationships, better the relationships we have. So I'm speaking sort of real life. What we do is in CRM, if we have a client, we'll put in, as it's going on, everything that they purchase. So for example, different clients have different buying habits, of course. Some clients buy only at Christmas. Some clients buy stuff weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever. We have all those things in. So if that customer does 4 trade shows, a golf tournament, and a Christmas party for employees, and that's their buying habits, we'll have those 5 or 6 phone calls in a couple of months before the event's happening. So we can start that conversation. Hey, your golf tournament's coming up. Last year, and we'll have what you bought last year, the year before that, and the year before that, and then have a couple of notes on how it's going. Last year we did those shoes, and everybody loved that. Remember that? Oh, yeah, I do. What are we doing this year? You know what, I have some ideas. We should talk about that. You want to get together next week? We can sort of discuss that? That would be a great idea. See, when you start behaving like that, now you're a consultant. And my clients think, wow, you're really organized. The truth is I'm not. My CRM tells me what to do. It tells me when I come in the morning, this is who you should call. This is what's coming up. And while I'm talking to them, my rule is this. I do not pick up the phone to call a customer unless my CRM is open. Meaning, customer called, can you return his call? I go, sure. Put it in CRM. Now I pick up the phone and call. So as the customer's talking to me, I'm putting everything into his notes. Just like your doctor does. When they go up at your phone, they go, you were here last year for that knee, right? How's that feeling, by the way? Oh, remember 3 years ago you had that problem with your wrist? How's that? See, when you can start talking like that to your clients, your value's through the roof. I can tell you nothing's changed. The only thing you're doing is you're putting it into a database and you have that information. We also go further than that. We'll put in their birthdays. And I can tell you just very openly and transparently, we don't spend a lot of money on their birthdays. It's a card that's handwritten. Happy birthday, John. We'll put in their children's name, birth dates of their children. How many of you have clients that are grandparents? Anybody? Do you know? I put in their grandchildren's birthdays when they were born. So when I'm talking to them, I go, you have John, right? That's your grandson. Yeah. He's got to be 3 years old now. Yeah. You remember, eh? I sure do, because it's right in front of me. Now, if you can do that, actually, let's back up. You can probably do that with 10 people. I couldn't, but some people could. But imagine if you're dealing with 300 people. Imagine if you're managing 20, 30 accounts, and you have 5, 6, 10 contacts at each account. Accounts receivable person, shipping person, all of those things. Now imagine if you have that type of information in your CRM. And by the way, going back to our qualifying, see what you're doing is you're asking these questions. And as you're asking those questions, those get transferred into CRM. So that question that you asked 3 years ago still holds true today. Do you have 3 children? You sure did. You had them 3 years ago. You most likely have them today. And you keep gathering that information. So what happens is the way you're developing the view of that customer continuously increases, continuously becomes better. You know what that does? That makes somebody else coming in almost irrelevant, because the value proposition that you offer is huge. You can't do it in writing because, to find things through paper. How many of you go back to books and try, oh, I remember I wrote that down. Where is it? And you're looking for like an hour. CRM. I actually work with a headset that's wireless. What do they call me? Robocop?
Britney Spears.
Britney Spears. Okay, good. Yeah. Britney Spears.
Sorry, that's that voice.
Yeah. But I actually work with a headset, and I'm sort of typing as I'm speaking and capturing all the information. It makes my job so easy to look after. I don't even know what they're running, but I'm going to say it's about 300 people. I mean, effectively. No details missing. All the emails get tracked against the contact record. So when I'm looking for that specific person's emails, I just go to that, history, and I can see everything. When we ship orders to them, it's all tracked against them. It's all like in one spot. I'm not going, yeah, let me get back to you. And then it doesn't become a scavenger hunt at the office to figure this out. So I highly recommend, if you're not using a CRM, it'll take you, I'm going to say probably about 60 days for it to become ingrained. But once you do, I mean, I can tell you that if somebody tomorrow morning says, your computer's down, I would go, huh, my computer's down. Like, my life just stopped. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who I'm doing it with. I don't know what I'm doing, who I'm doing for. So CRM, I think it's extremely important. They're very, very cost effective. I just was looking at Salesforce.com. You can buy it online for about $125 a month, and you can customize it to your needs. So as you're using it, you say, it would be really great if I could do this. You can just go in and turn on and turn off fields, and really cool thing. But
good?
Yeah, thank you.
And for those of you who don't believe that he is obsessed, and you go back a bit, CRM, and I look to our staff because if somebody walks through the door, the first thing, you got him in CRM? So he didn't reference this slide, and this is sort of like what my closet looked like before Ramo got me on the CRM. So it's a much neater and tidier way to capture everything. He is compulsive. But to his credit, when he opens up a file, he does not make a call, and he knows the guy's dog's name, the last shipping. It's absolutely, and the one thing that I found coming to Add Impact, and I had been exposed to it, but certainly not to the extent that Ramo's done it, the effectiveness of it. And when you use it, because I was that scavenger hunt, and where's that email, and how do you find it, it is something that has become a big part of my life too. So CRM, when we did this in May, I was amazed at how many people really didn't utilize the CRM as much as we talked about. So give it some thought. So we're almost ready to wrap it up. I just wanted to start and say thank you. It's tough to get everybody up early, and we do appreciate you coming out. Our goal was very simple. We're all here for the same reason. We all have the same objective. It's to survive, to be professional, and to make a living and make some friends while we're doing this. Keep in mind, and this is one that I really focus on, selling product is relatively easy. Anybody can do it. Selling solutions takes some professionalism. It really is the way to achieve your goals and margins when you're selling something outside of it. We do, and again, I'll jump around a little bit. One of the things that we often think about is taking probably 50% of our product and putting it in some type of a package. Very rarely will we send a golf shirt out without a box. And I'll go back to a story about a guy, and this is in my Ash City days, and he was a big distributor, and he was running a high-end program for Mercedes, it happened to be. And I walked in, and at the time, you're probably familiar with a line called Core 365. It's the entry level for Ash, like Alpha now. And he said, I can't do it. I can't sell my customers that. I said, Chuck, let me walk you through this. I said, I'm going to take that shirt, that $6 polo, I'm going to put a Mercedes label in it. I'm going to put it in a black box. We're going to stamp a gold Mercedes on the box. He did $185,000 in that polo. His margins, I can't tell you how good they were. But that shirt became, and it's the sizzle on the steak. We all sell product, but use some packaging to get it there. So creativity, differentiate yourself. These are all things that are going to make a difference at how you know, at the end of the year, how you end up faring. So a couple of slides just to close. Sloppy and complacent. You know what it equals? It equals RFPs. RFPs are brutal. I think most people have gone through them. They're never a lot of fun. If you are more creative, there's no need to do that. So preparation and creativity equals dollars. It's never changed. It's one of the oldest rules. Sometimes we get lazy and we get caught up in it. And I guess the last one, story I'll tell quickly, and it's one that I think we all have to get better at, specifically on the distributor side, is sometimes there's bad business. There's nothing wrong with walking away from a bad deal. A couple of years ago, I was involved in an RFP at a major financial institution, and after what seemed to be a year of going through a process, she sat down and she said, congratulations, you've won the business. And I said, oh, that's so good. We were so happy. She said, now we're going to talk about price. I said, price? I thought we did that at the first stage in that shopping basket thing we did. Oh, no. Now we're going to start this over. And what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about a cost-plus basis. I said, cost-plus? Really? How does that work? She said, well, I'm thinking cost plus 14, cost plus 16 would be the number that I'd like to work with. And I said, that's interesting. It's not the number I had in mind. So I looked at her, and I was quite disturbed, and I thought about it for a few minutes, and I looked back at her, and I said, can I ask you an honest question? And again, keep in mind this is a bank. She says, by all means. I said, if I came to you and I said, this is my business plan. I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to operate on cost plus 14%. Will you give me an operating line? She said, no. I said, so help me. She said, Neil, there's so many people lined up that are prepared to do that. And I walked away from, it was a great deal of money. And the motto or finishing is, you can't fix stupid. If we continue to do this to one another and drop our drawers, if you will, this is not a good thing. Unfortunately, the incumbent had to drop his price as a result of it. The exercise wasn't good. So I encourage you all, please, for the betterment of everybody, let's hold firm. Let's provide a professional quality service that people see the value in, and we will all do much better. So we're done. I think we're pretty close to on time. We've left a few minutes for questions and answers if anybody has.
Leslie?
The CRM program that you use, Remo, you had that custom made for you, though. You're not...
No, we actually use, years back we used a program called Goldmine. What happened with Goldmine, it got bought up by a whole bunch of different people and ultimately became unsupported. So we had to get rid of it. So as a byproduct of that, we bought Microsoft CRM Dynamics because I figured Microsoft's not going anywhere in a hurry and it's readily supported. And we invest, as an organization, we invest greatly in it, customizing it. And we also have a few people on our team, Nima and Francis, who are with us today, who know it very, very well and help us sort of develop fields and productivity functions within it to make it better. But then that being said, that's something that, not to get too into this, but something that we host internally. You don't have to go that route. Again, you can just go to Salesforce, I think it's .com or .ca, and you basically set up a profile. You can log in from anywhere in the world. It's an online tool. You can customize it, and it remains private to you. So it just depends sort of how far you want to go with it. I would always recommend you go that route, because so you're dibble-dabbling, if you will, becoming comfortable, and then you can decide if there's a next step.
Yeah, for anybody that's looking for something economical, and I mean, this is not an endorsement or anything, but the whole CRM issue was almost like a smack in the head for me last year, because Fred and I introduced the profile, how to profile your clients and tracking information, and then as time went on, I personally got very sloppy and lazy and quit doing it, and I honestly believe that it has cost me financially because I haven't had the same information on my clients. There is a free program out there, and so what I did over the holidays is I've taken all of my client information and put it in a program called Insightly. The only complication for me with Insightly is that it does not coordinate with Outlook, so I'm forced to use Gmail because that's where it's compliant. But at least it's in the cloud, and I can access, if I was in the car and I was going to walk in to visit Neil, and I wanted to look up the last programs we worked on, I can go into a cloud-based from my iPad and look up all that information in detail. And I mean, it takes some time to get it loaded, but honestly, they're telling you to do it, and they're two really successful people. And since I've done it, and I'm tracking I started with my most important clients, and then I'm working through, there's just such a feeling of comfort that you got all that information. And then the last one, when you were talking about birthdays, the other thing that you should track is when was the corporate anniversary? What was their date of incorporation? Because that's a real big one to nail down programs. I mean, they could be having their 60th anniversary next year, and the new purchasing agent had no idea. So it's just another one to add on. So, and I encourage you, ask these guys questions. Neil is like Wilson Dunn used to be. Whenever you wanted to get information, Neil's our go-to guy in the industry. He's really, really good that way.
Yeah. Anybody else? Nope.
I actually have a question.
Wonderful.
We're currently using CRM. We're a small company in China. So where do you log all of your information in CRM?
Sorry, say that again?
Where do you log all of your information? Like, I like all of my emails in there.
Yeah, so you're using Microsoft CRM?
It's Sugar CRM.
Okay. Sugar's, yeah, Sugar's like,
Probably it's a free.
yeah, it's like similar to Salesforce, yeah?
Okay. So I track all of my emails.
Yeah.
I link all of that stuff in there. Put all of my information in there as far as my clients go. But you don't take a phone call until you have CRM open and you log that phone call. Where?
I set up a new phone call.
Okay, so you track it in each phone.
Yeah, so,
And you link that.
okay, so I cheat a little bit. This is what I do. I'll set up a phone call for their golf tournament. Put that, let's assume that their golf tournament's April 30th. I'll put that phone call in, let's say, February 1. And then in that phone call, I'll have 2014, what they purchased by size and by color, 2013, 2012, so forth, what they purchased. So if they say to me, what did I buy in 2010? I go, yeah, remember you bought the belts with the hats with the box? And they'll go, oh yeah, I remember that. Okay, so I have that. Then they'll buy this year, and I'll take that phone call and move it to February 1st, 2016. Got it?
Just keep moving all of your information forward.
Yeah,
from here.
yeah. So then what happens is next February 1st, I come into the office February 1st, and I go, oh, I got to call Jane about the golf tournament.
And all that information.
Right. And now Jane will say, oh, that's a great idea, Rim. I do want to work it on early, but geez, such a bad week. We're doing budgets. Can you call me in 2 weeks? Sure, Jane. February 1st becomes February 14th. Call her February 14th. But I'm not.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. But I'm not thinking about it. Like I hear a lot of people go home and they say, oh my God, I got to do all this stuff tomorrow. I can tell you, once you start using CRM, that's gone. Like I can tell you, at any given day, and our team will vouch for this, I may have as many as 100 phone calls set up. I'm never worried about it. They're there. It's just, it's that. So I never go home, oh, I forgot. It's there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's the last thing I do every night and the first thing I do every morning is I open up the CRM program. And I just feel so much more comfortable about my days now.
Any other questions? No. Okay, the other thing, sorry, go ahead.
You with the client that tells you, well, I no longer need your service because I find everything I need on the internet, so I cut you out altogether.
I told him to call Neil. I was like, call Neil.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, to me,
I want to hear how you get out of this one.
yeah, okay. Well, to me, there's two things going on there, and this is so. There's the potential that you haven't created enough value to that organization or to that person. That's sort of one side, and only you can figure this out. The other part of it is that organization just doesn't value relationships or value add. So you have to be honest with yourself and say which organization which of the two do they fall into? If they fall into, we just buy online, we buy the cheapest price, we really don't care, we've always been that way, we're always going to be that way, run. Because you're just going to keep working it and spending all this time and energy and effort, and you're not going to win. On the other side of the coin is if they're leaving because, or they've gone to a like competitor, then you really have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, how do you evaluate that relationship, that 1 to 10 rule? Because my guess is you're not a 7, 8, or 9. You're maybe like a 1 or a 2. And then think of it as a learning experience. How do I start to take all of my relationships and really put them on? Because see, what happens is when you change the relationship value, when you make it more beneficial for them to work with you, they want to work with you. If you keep finding ways to make life easier and better for them, they're staying with you. And the reality is, and I'll say this in this room, most customers are not spending their own money. So what do they want? They want their life to be good, easy, happy. They got enough problems. Your job is to give them, make their life wonderful, make it better, and make it easy. The more you do that, the less likely you are to lose them.
Notice it's a high turnaround rate in that position with that customer. Every year there's a new person managing it.
Was the question?
It speaks to it speaks to the organization.
Was the question though that they're going to online shopping more often than not?
High turnover in the company.
Yeah, you know what? Online is probably one of my favorite subjects because I hear it all the time. I can't compete with, and I won't name them, but we all know who they are. The reality is that their profit margins are far greater than most of ours. It's a bait and switch. And the problem is that traditionally we don't ask the question. So I'll give you an example. They'll have a golf shirt and it'll say, you know, there's a sliding scale. We've all seen the website, and it's $29.99, etc. And the guy says, if you're selling it for $29, it costs me $25. Well, here's the first thing. That's at 300 pieces. The average order for those folks is 19 pieces. Okay? That's reality. So we all get shaken up by that price at the end of it. That's not the real price. Well, yeah, how do we do it? Well, they're not selling it at that price. So ask those questions to the guy. Are you sure we're comparing apples to apples? Because more often than not, you can take those guys, and I won't name them, and there's a place for them. But they also sell at a model that has no customer satisfaction service. It's all online, etc. So they are looking to sell to, you know, the hair and tire salon and, you know, all these little companies like that. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. Are we comparing the same quantities? Because 19 pieces, and I know this from my Ash City, 19 pieces was the average order what they're selling. And when you slide the scale of that, it's no longer $29.99, it's $49.99. Their margins are phenomenal. They're making money hand over fist, but we don't ask the questions. We look at that last one, and I get so tired when people say, oh, these online guys are killing me. Service and ask that question, because you can take them every time. They're not giving the stuff away like you think they are.
And there's also a back-end shipping and handling and service fees that it's like when you look at things that are on the television and it's like, it's $19.99 for one.
Yeah.
But, today it's a special offer, so we're throwing in two for the $19.99 with separate shipping and handling. Mm-hmm. So actually the shipping and handling on the second one was $19.99 anyway.
Yeah, I think in our industry, though, it's not so much that as much as the sliding scale and the quantities. So they have that prices as low as, or, you see it in retail and they say, a TV for $2.99 or whatever, but the reality is they have 3 of them in the store when they're gone. So it's sort of a bit of a bait and switch, and it's marketing. It is what it is, but you shouldn't, and I mean, none of us should be losing business with relationships established to these online providers. It's just not, it's incomprehensible when you think about it. So question them. Really challenge that. Anyone else?
Good. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for attending this morning, and see you on the show floor.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, on behalf of the PPPC.
You're not going to give me a mug, are you?
Chantal, where's our speaker gifts? I'll personally deliver it.
I want to say one more thing. If anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to myself or Neil afterwards, I got some business cards. Feel free to pick up the phone and give us a call. We're not overly concerned. I think you can see it about being sort of confidential with what we do and how we do things, so happy to share.